We're looking to learn from the various communities across the Niagara region what they're witnessing or experiencing in terms of discrimination and
Well, 25% say vaccine discrimination.
bias, whether it's in their workplace, it's at school, it's in the general community, all of those aspects. We've been told in the past that 600 responses for a population the size of Niagara is considered to be statistically significant.
600 responses is considered to be statistically significant. You don't say. Well, you've got over 1,600 responses, and 1/4 of them, of those who say they've experienced discrimination, say vaccine status discrimination.
I mean, I would like to see, because it's about the Niagara region, and it does touch on so many aspects of living in the region. I would hope that we get a lot more than 600 responses. Obviously, the more responses, the better.
Unless they're from people who've experienced vaccine discrimination. We don't want those. I'm impressed they even included it. I'm looking here at the questions. I was impressed that they even included it. I was, until I found that they didn't include it. At the end of the day, the 24% respondents to the discrimination survey who reported vaccine status discrimination were excluded from the inclusivity survey. And here's the top 5 as it used to be, and here's the top 5 as it's presented. I guess this is one of those how it started, how it's going. How it started is about 1,200 people responded to a Niagara region survey about discrimination, and hundreds of them wrote in vaccine status as the form of discrimination that they've experienced. That was scrubbed for the final report under a section called Key Findings, consisting of a key omission. Of course, we've been deep diving into the 5-year plan, and you can find it at niagarabase.com under the tag 5-year plan. The 5-year plan, DEI to transform region in July council vote. Now just weeks away. I've been tracking it 4 weeks, been reading many documents. Here's the latest one, the last document we'll get to see before the vote. The final document, the one that has graphic design elements. The 5th document, this one I read in detail and took many great notes and many not so great notes. And we're going to do a deep dive into this document. This is the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Opportunities for Change, which is kind of like the socialist wish list. They asked a bunch of socialists, which they call community members. They asked a bunch of socialists that they call community members, what would you like to see from Niagara region and your municipality? And they wrote down all their ideas, and that's the best clue we'll have as to the details. So we're looking here through that document. You'll get to see it too. A lot of interesting things in this document we could talk about this evening, but we don't have all night. We just have about a half an hour. So let's get into it. Wow, where do we begin? Well, we were talking earlier this afternoon going through this document in a live stream, and I made it through, we were looking at this one. I made it through the first section. So let's take a look at what we got here. We've talked about the survey data at length. We've talked about how vaccine status has been completely left out. We've talked about, they call it key findings, but they actually omitted the key finding, which is that a quarter of the respondents believe that vaccine status is a form of discrimination. Oh, that doesn't fit into our plans. Here's the action plan. Just scrolling through to find the right page, and here we are. So they've got what they're called focus areas. So we're going to read through this, and we're going to make a few comments. So focus area A, inclusive workplace culture, leadership, and accountability. Focus area B, increased understanding through humility and learning. Focus area C, diverse workforce reflective of Niagara's community. Focus Area D, programs and services meet the needs of everyone. Focus Area E, addressing discrimination. Focus Area F, inclusive communication. So, looking through this, we see a internal and external strategic action, with each one having a key performance indicator and a year next to it. Some of these are a little bit interesting. For example, create a program that recognizes staff who advance DEI, the key performance indicator being the number of staff recognized. Develop and promote a DEI handbook, because everyone wants to read Niagara Region's DEI handbook and really take it to heart. A DEI charter, and have organizations in the region sign on to the Niagara Region DEI charter, and then establish a DEI community of practice, which I don't even know what that is, but that's why we have to look at the other document. This is what I've been trying to say, is that these are very vague ideas. This is not really an action plan. It's a brainstorm that they've just stretched across time. We could do all this stuff, and we could do it across these years. Act now before it's too late. And so we have to sort of get a sense of what they're talking about from their focus groups. A lot of interesting quotes in the focus groups that came up. Let's take a look through this document. Let's take a look. All right, we're looking. So we're going to jump ahead to focus area B, increased understanding through humility and learning. Internal goal, increase the knowledge, skills, and competencies of staff, counselors, and volunteers to be equipped to support the diverse population of Niagara by 10%. So the knowledge, skills, and competencies will be increased by 10%. Gotta say, though, I really find it to be a red flag that staff, counselors, and volunteers are grouped together. Counselors are not staff, and counselors should not be regarded as subject to the same expectations as staff. And I don't think that counselor training of DEI, mandatory counselor training of DEI, is appropriate. So let's look at the internal. This is just my opinion. Internal strategic actions. Develop DEI learning curriculum with learning paths for staff, counselors, and volunteers. Again, this is a regional municipality which is typically responsible for regional municipality type objectives. Keep the water running, keep the police force accountable, keep the buses running, facilitate business development. But here we have them developing a learning curriculum for diversity, equity, and inclusion, which learning paths for staff, counselors, and volunteers. The key performance indicator being the number of trainings available. They want to get to that right away. Deliver DEI learning for all staff, counselors, and volunteers next year. So they want to create the curriculum for the rest of the year, and then next year they will deploy that curriculum to staff, counselors, and volunteers. And that's super. The key performance indicator will be the number of counselors, staff, and volunteers who have successfully completed DEI training. Again, I think it's entirely inappropriate to create this expectation that an elected official, a regional councillor, must be subject to your training regimen. It's not WHMIS. You don't have to be WHMIS trained in order to be a regional councillor either. Implement inclusive leadership development. Of course, that's not at all in any way specified here. You have to go through the document to understand what that means. And what it means is implement inclusive leadership development, a variety of ideas to make their leadership more representative of the population, which means, I guess, more openly gay and more non-white leadership positions. Senior leaders who lead by example to promote a respectful and inclusive workplace. So imagine this key performance indicator in practice, please, if you're following along. Increase in percentage the number of Niagara Region staff who agree that senior leaders lead by example to promote a respectful and inclusive workplace. So they want to increase the percentage of staff who agree. So if you have staff who are resentful, then you're screwed no matter what. By 2024, so we'll get that going. External goals. Increase the knowledge, skills, and competencies of training participants in the community regarding DEI and cultural humility by 10%. It's really qualifiable data being quantified. Knowledge, skills, and competencies. You want to increase that by 10%. Hey, how's your knowledge, skill, and competency doing? I feel like I'm about 10% less than where I need to be. Well, give it 5 years. Give it 5 years, you'll be where you need to be. Pre- and post-training session surveys. So they'll do a survey before the training session. Then they'll do a survey after the training sessions. And then they'll see if the knowledge, skills, and competencies of participants has increased by 10%. Again, this is a municipality. This isn't a church group or a religious group. This is a fourth branch of government for us. There's federal, provincial, regional, and municipal. And that's what they're doing. So develop a resource about human rights, addressing hate crimes, and interacting with the police. Again, why is that your job? Partner with community organizations to develop and deliver DEI learning curriculum for community members. So remember, when they say community members, what they mean is socialists. So they want to partner with community organizations, and socialist organizations, to develop and deliver DEI learning curriculum for socialist members. Maybe I'm being a little bit too colorful in my analysis there. Moving forward, key performance indicators. Gosh. So they want to create a resource about human rights, hate crimes, and interacting with the police. And their KPI is going to be the number of downloads from the website in 2 years. They're really taking this bigotry issue by the bullhorns. Support community events with advisory committees on DEI topics. Okay. Number of community events supported. So I guess that's public money to pay for three-dimensional, real-world socialist propaganda. Again, perhaps I'm being a bit colorful, but what else could you really describe it as? Moving on to Focus Area C, diverse workforce, reflective of Niagara's community. Internal goal, use a variety of inclusive strategies to hire, retain, and promote the workforce of Niagara region to reflect the region's diverse population base on the Canadian census. This is reductive, low-resolution, dangerous thinking, which consists of racial quotas and neuroses. Because it ain't so simple as that. It ain't so simple as that. But we can't get into that. I'm going to get into why I feel it is low resolution and reductive to think that just because there's X percentage of X identitarian category in the arbitrary geographic region of Niagara, that needs to, on a 1-to-1 ratio, translate into representation in government, in this local government, with a down from above culture shift. I think that, don't agree that that has been well thought out, and I think that the thought process that's going into it I keep using the phrase low resolution. It's a very grainy image you guys are getting here from the region, from DEI. Staff survey demographics questions compared to 2020 census data. So they're going to survey the staff for their demographic questions and compare that to the census data. And that will be how they'll know if they're making improvements. Which means, in practical terms, less white, less straight, and less Christian. It just practically means that. It means if you're straight, white, and Christian, that you're deprioritized explicitly. And, that's not the right message to send, I don't think. And that's not the only problem. That is certainly not the only issue. Internal strategic actions increase capacity and resources committed to DEI-related staff at the region. Oh, you're going to hear that theme a lot. Increase capacity and resources committed to DEI. So you guys have basically a new 6th division to Niagara region, a sixth department. The DEI department is taking over. Worth hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and growing each year. This first year, it's already at $150,000 to $200,000 in the year. That's the full-time staff, the drain on resources, and the cost of the committees, which is known. The cost of the committees and staff is known to be $60,000. The full-time staff is $110,000. And then there are some ancillary expenses. So every single one of these ideas comes with a cost associated with it. And what we could expect is every other month, the DEI work task force would have a representative present to council and say, hey, we want to do this thing. And council would be like, yeah, I'm not racist, let's do it. And they'll add another $50,000 to $60,000 expense, and then another, and so forth. This one is explicit. Increase capacity and resources committed to DEI-related staff at the region. Again, this is all way out of order for the fundamental purpose of a municipality. Municipalities aren't supposed to become moral enforcers. I recognize that municipalities are responsible for police. And we will get to that because, and not, I don't want to bury the lead here. One of the things that I've observed here is that they're planning a parallel justice system. This is all building up towards a parallel justice system. There may be new organizations formed out of the mechanism being discussed here. In 5 years, you may find that there's this well-funded organization called Restorative Justice, and we'll get into that shortly. Okay, so internal strategies, increase capacity and resources. Key performance indicator, the number of DEI-focused staff. So we'll know we're doing very well when we have lots of DEI-focused staff. Dozens of DEI-focused staff. You need people to receive the complaints, to process the complaints. You need people who are diverse to sit on your employment boards. You need people who are diverse to work in the communities, to go to the communities and reach out to the communities. You need staff who are able to put on these events. You need staff who are able to, and so on and so forth. And so on and so forth. Again, all of it being a political project, a down from above political project to shift the culture. A culture that doesn't want to be shifted. Certainly a culture that doesn't want to be shifted in this condescending down from above program. Implement best practices to eliminate barriers in recruitment, hiring, and promotion processes. Well, that sounds nice. Percent of new staff who've recognized their interview panel has diverse representation. So when you're interviewing someone, one of the key things to keep in mind is things entirely unrelated to the job, things that are only there for appearances, things like, is it a diverse representation panel? Or is the interview panel diverse? I don't know what kind of professional is not thinking about their job and instead thinking about sex, gender, and race. Create outreach strategy to expand diverse candidate pool. Okay. I mean, why are you waiting 2 years? Get it started. Start your outreach strategy. You know, I read in this document here. There's a really funny part here. Let me look at this word up. Toronto. Toronto. Get a load of this ridiculousness. Participants expressed a sentiment that the region could benefit from looking to hire individuals from areas that are more diverse, such as the Greater Toronto Area. Why is that? Because our local blacks aren't smart enough to work for the region and we got to outsource it to Toronto? Our local Indigenous aren't smart enough? Why? I thought the whole point was to represent the demographics of this region, and yet you're saying right here could benefit from looking to hire individuals from areas that are more diverse, such as the Greater Toronto Area. Just seems to be a bit silly. That seems a bit silly. Seems like it's a bit silly. All right, we're motoring through here. External strategic actions. Increase percentage of people that believe employers in Niagara do a good job attracting, retaining, and promoting people of diverse backgrounds into leadership positions by 20%. So this is all survey-based. So as we already know, they rig the survey. They don't present the survey as if it's something that actually matters. So they have their entire goal be based on surveys, which is data that you know they're going to rig. Increased percentage of people that believe employers in Niagara do a good job. Okay, let me just stop everyone for a second here. It is 5 years from now, and they get their survey data back. And what it says is that actually 30% better. Wow, we're doing 30% better. This is amazing. Do you think that the department, the DEI department, is going to be like, okay, let's pack it up. We've done a great job. We've spent over $1 million, maybe as much as $2 million by then. Well, we won't need to spend anything else. We've totally succeeded. Discrimination has been abolished in every corner of the entire Niagara region. And now we don't need to get our $100,000 a year jobs, and we don't need all this committees, and we don't need all of this funding, and we don't need all of this legitimization of socialist community organizations through the municipality. We don't need any of that anymore. We've succeeded. So that's the fantasy they're selling you about 5 years from now. It's not like in 5 years discrimination will be abolished. Is it? Is it? No. 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 So they're going to spend to funnel public money through official channels legitimizing fringe socialists. Perhaps I'm being too colorful. Focus Area D. Programs and services meet the needs of everyone. Oh, the irony is just really stacking up in the hypocrisy. But that is a laudable goal. If in any way programs and services aren't meeting the needs of everyone, that does need to change. So I'm not going to act like, that's it. There's nothing wrong with the goal. It's the fact that the goal is being used as a bait and switch. Internal goal, 100% of Niagara Region divisions have just knocks my hat off. 100% of Niagara Region divisions have incorporated diversity, equity, and inclusion principles into their work. 100% of Niagara Region divisions have incorporated diversity, equity, and inclusion principles into their work. Did reading it slower help you understand that that's insane? That is this is a political invasion. They're invading every aspect of every organization with their practically religious zeal. What does DEI principles into their work need to have anything to do? You know what? The garbage collecting the doctors, the hospitals, everyone needs to have 100% incorporated DEI. Sounds, you guys don't have the answers, but you're really pushing hard. And the source will be the Survey on Niagara Region Programs and Services. Improve the process for complaints within Niagara Region Programs and Services related to bias and discrimination. Oh, I'm sure you'll improve the process, all right. The key performance indicator will be the number of complaints received by people, identifying in each diversity dimension. So I guess they'll want to ramp up to a certain number of complaints. We got a baseline. Okay, we got 15 complaints a year. We want to get that back down. Reviewing complaints are going to happen, and they need to deal with human resources correctly. And most of the human resources stuff doesn't bother me on as much of a level as them enforcing mandatory training on politicians. Review and revise Niagara Region programs using the DEI handbook. So the DEI handbook is what they said in the previous pages, something they're going to be developing and counting how many downloads they get. But not only that, it will serve as none other than a Bible. Review and revise Niagara Region programs using the DEI handbook. The DEI Bible will be their guiding light. Number of programs and services have been incorporated that have incorporated the handbook. So they're going to be... This is a sick, twisted culture shift they're enforcing here. And I feel bad about my inability to articulate how out of place this entire operation is. This is from the initiative of a political agenda for the purposes of politics, using human failures, discrimination, bigotry, using that as a wedge to drive itself into institutions it has no place being. Just moving forward here. Focus area E, addressing discrimination. We want to increase the DEI score for Niagara Region employees by 5%. The staff survey composite score of 6 DEI related questions score is currently 75%. So we want to get that up to 80 in 5 years, and then 5 years from that, we're going to want to get it up to 85. 5 years from then. Oh my God. It starts really overwhelming me how this doesn't speak for itself, and it needs an advocate to identify. And I hope I'm doing a sufficient job in pointing out that this document, this plan, is inappropriate for a municipality to be engaging in, especially with this level of zeal. And there are some red flags here. We're coming up on almost half an hour, and I'm not even through the entire action plan. Remember, this is it. This is the final document. If there's anything to hold them to when they vote for the 5-year plan, it's this document. So we're reading it carefully, looking for the red flags, or looking for the content and then marking them with red flags if they come up. Publish a formal anti-discrimination acknowledgement statement. Oh, great. Have a pledge. Number of communication platforms where statement is communicated. Review staff complaint process for incidences of bias, discrimination, or harassment. Yeah, okay, review it. Percent of staff that agree they would feel comfortable reporting an incident. So yeah, up to 15% of staff reported they don't feel comfortable even reporting. They also, up to that percentage, didn't feel comfortable telling you details about their lives, such as their sexual preferences, their disabilities, and so forth. Incorporate DEI impacts as part of reports to council and corporate leadership team. So They just want the lens of DEI through everything. Percent of council reports that do incorporate DEI impacts. Can you imagine how abysmally condescending this is? So you've got a council that consists entirely of stuffy, well-to-do white people, and will consist of that next year, for the most part, and they're going to sit there, and they're going to give reports, and in their reports, they're going to pay lip service to their identitarian categories. Every single report. Niagara Region policies and procedures using the DEI handbook. So they want to review the actual policies and procedures of the entire organization through the lens of the DEI handbook. And then those are the internal goals. Again, the internal goals, they're very troubling because this is a government and the government has a huge influence on the rest of us. But the external goals are extra trouble. Decrease the percent of people that experience discrimination in Niagara by 20%. The goal is to decrease the percent of people that experience discrimination by 20%. Again, another pathetic, lofty goal that doesn't make any sense. Currently, the survey says 66% of survey respondents have experienced one or more types of discrimination. Yeah, and 25% of them said vaccine status discrimination. So how in the world are you going to decrease the percentage of people that experience discrimination in Niagara by 20% unless you address the 24% of people who responded vaccine status discrimination? But hey, who am I to say? External strategic actions. Facilitate town hall dialogues with diverse communities on discrimination issues. Oh, I can't wait. Key performance indicator. Number of town hall dialogues. This is pathetic. In 2024. So in a couple years, you can look forward to Niagara Region hosting anti-discrimination town hall dialogues, which is just lecturing the public. It's not welcoming the public in to challenge them on their ideas. Abso-fucking-lutely not. It's inviting the public in to shut your mouth and listen to them lecture you. That's their town hall with diverse communities. Partner with community organizations to host anti-discrimination community engagement sessions and provide anti-discrimination public education. Look, you're a municipality. Stop being so arrogant as to think anyone gives a shit about your public education. You don't have the resources nor the competency to educate the public about their unconscious biases. Screw off. Ensure a number of programs and facilities are safe spaces for all people, regardless of identity and diversity. Okay, but not regardless of vaccination status. Percent of programs participants who believe Niagara Region facilities and spaces are safe spaces. My goodness. Sweet Moses. So we've crushed it. We've crushed through that, and what have we learned? Well, let's bring this one up. 3.5.2. Welcome to section 3.5.2 of the Opportunities for Change document. This really, I think I need to lead with this next time. Participants see the value in having an independent organization that would take pressure off of police. This would be an impartial body at the regional level that is able to hold all sectors accountable. This team should be multifaceted and diverse, following up with incidences of racism and discrimination. So, if I read that correctly, and I've now read it 5 or 6 or 7 times, being like, that sounds a little bit suspicious. So we're talking about here participants, so these are those community members they keep supporting and saying that this entire plan is because community members have endorsed it. So this is what the community members say. An independent organization that would take pressure off of police. So when you experience a hate crime, you don't call the police anymore. You're going to call up this independent organization, which would be an impartial body at the regional level that is able to hold all sectors accountable. I mean, this is it, folks. This is the whole thing. This is what it's all about. I'm not going to be able to articulate it right now very well, I don't think. I mean, if you're listening to me out there and you see this text, am I reading this wrong? An impartial body at the regional level that is able to hold all sectors accountable. Who do you fucking people think you are? Because you're in no position, ethically or morally, to be holding anyone accountable. If anything, you're on the run from being held accountable for a variety of abuses, both ethical, moral, and political. So to have the audacity that you'll be able to install an impartial body at the regional level to hold all sectors accountable, it's not just a red flag. Alarm bells need to be going off. And this isn't just some document. This is from Niagara Region. I'm on niagararegion.ca. I'm reading that they plan on another branch. So let's go and check out It's Time, Niagara, the official campaign Twitter of DEI chair and candidate Sabrina Hill, whom today has been advocating for what she calls restorative justice. Restorative justice. Let's take a look. And I bring this attention up. I bring this to your attention because the body of text that I just read about a new organization that can hold everyone accountable might be called restorative justice. And here we have Sabrina Hill for Regional Council, maybe has a shot getting into council, already well positioned, already in the document. On page 7, that's Sabrina Hill. On page 7 of the final document of the 5-year plan, here campaigning for what she says is restorative justice, which she describes as, if elected, Sabrina will work with the criminal justice system in Niagara, victims' rights groups, and other local stakeholders to develop a restorative justice program that works in parallel with the criminal justice system for adult victims of sexual and hate-based crimes. Now, on its surface, that sounds pretty nice. Unfortunately, there's a lot more to it. Unfortunately, it's coming from really a Jekyll and Hyde ideology. As I said it prior, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Yes, this sounds very nice, but what does it really mean? What does it really mean? And, well, we're going to find out, because you can't stop progress. You can't stop progress. You know, running a little late. I don't know if I want to continue into the next section, but I'm a little interested to continue into the next section. Take a look at this. So we've got a variety of just stock photos. Look at this. Stock photo. That might not be a stock photo. These are stock photos, right? Did they hire a photographer? Alright, I'm at 40 minutes. Might as well call it quits for the night. We're going to dig into this document again and again. Thank you for listening along with me. I hope that I've been informative. If I'm missing the mark, please fill me in. Give me some feedback. Tell me how much of a bigot I am. I mean, but don't just say, hey, you're a bigot and then leave. You got to actually say something that is an argument. So it's hard to call me a bigot when I've read every single document and I just have a different philosophical opinion. I don't think that the solutions being put forward will mitigate the issues being raised. I think they will exacerbate the issues being raised. That it will do more harm than good. That's the case. I believe that is the case. So that's what I'm going to be continuing to pursue. I could get feedback that would... I don't think I could really ever be convinced that this is a good idea. I'm just speaking against it. But I don't expect to stop it. You can't stop this stuff. They've invested just so much of themselves into it that there's no political will. Can you imagine this regional council being like, you know what? Nah. Thanks for all your effort, but no, they're going to applaud, and then they're going to have puff pieces in the newspaper, and they're going to all take pictures next to their new Pride crosswalk, and their 5-year plan is going to go through. But I will be there on July 21st through Zoom to deliver remarks that could be as long as 10 minutes, but I hope not, regarding really the issue you see on screen here. The number 4 cause of discrimination according to their survey was vaccine status, but then they deleted that. So instead of them creating a policy that was tailored to the data, they tailored the data to their policy. And that is truly unacceptable.